Good evening from New York. This is Tuesday, November the 22nd, 350 days until the 2012 presidential election. I'm David Schuster, sitting in tonight for Keith Olbermann. Occupy Obama. It happened in Manchester, New Hampshire today. The president was there to talk about extending payroll tax cuts due to expired year's end. The demonstrators were there to rally support for a movement that's seen some 4,000 arrests so far. Our fifth story in the countdown, the president hearing from Occupy. The NYPD hearing from the press about mistreatment of journalists covering Occupy and the reoccupation of UC Davis by Occupy students. We start in New Hampshire, where Mr. Obama bounded on stage at Manchester High School and was barely into his remarks when a familiar cry broke out.
So before I came to school today, I had coffee. No, that's okay.
After quieting his supporters, most of them high school students, Mr. Obama went back to his remarks, including several aimed directly at Occupy.
In the Occupy movement, there is a profound sense of frustration. There's a profound sense of frustration about the fact that the essence of the American dream, which is if you work hard, if you stick to it, that you can make it, feels like that's slipping away.
The president also connected Occupy with an issue he credited himself with trying to solve.
A lot of the young people who are in New York and around the country, they're worrying about student loans on our own without Congress. We reformed the student loan process to make it easier for more young people to pay off their debt.
Once the speech had ended, Mr. Obama was handed a note from Occupy that read in part, Mr. President, over 4,000 peaceful protesters have been arrested while bankers continue to destroy the economy with impunity. You must stop the assault on our First Amendment rights. We'll have more on Occupy and the president with Rolling Stone national political correspondent Tim Dickinson in a moment. But elsewhere in the Occupy movement, students at the University of California, Davis have reoccupied the area on campus where students were brutally pepper sprayed last week.
I came here just to show the administration that we're not backing down and that we're a community that needs to be taken seriously.
Meanwhile, protesters with Occupy the Highway ended a 240-mile march from New York to Washington, D.C., an effort to bring the Occupy message to rural communities along the way. Protesters at Occupy Los Angeles were offered a deal by the city government there, leave their camp by City Hall in return for 10,000 square feet of office space, land for farming, and housing for the homeless. Meanwhile, a dozen tents at Occupy Duluth were torn down by Minnesota police, but with no arrests. And protesters at Occupy Charleston were allowed to keep their camp at Marion Square, while Mayor Joe Riley tries to move them to an alternative site.